Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in here. We got a live stream on a Monday night randomly. Yeah, come hang out with me as I explore just a little bit the location or potentially the location that Sarah Boone could be going next. And it's the Lowell Correctional Institute. And it has a dark history, at least from what I've been reading. And I've got a lot of stuff to kind of go over. And we're going to do it tonight. Thanks for hanging out. Let's rock.
She's up. Bam, there's one ring. Turn around, Sarah.
Just turn around, face the wall. Put your hands behind your back. Do you have anything in your pockets that I should know about?
Why is this happening?
Because George is dead.
Not intentionally.
Let's rock.
There we go. What's up, everybody? Monday night live stream happening here. Thought I'd come through for another Sarah Boone Murder Church episode. I am not done with her just quite yet. I can't get enough. There's still a little bit more. We're going to be looking at a sentencing, at least from what I'm told, December 2nd, which is interesting. And I was kind of interested in where would Sarah Boone be going, potentially. And I think I found out. It looks like she could be going to Lowell Correctional Institute, and this place has a really, really dark history, guys. We're going to go over that here tonight. Everybody in here coming through right now, I really appreciate it. If you could go to X, if you're on there, and share out the tweet that I just made about this stream, I'd really appreciate it. That does help me out greatly. Hit the like, that does as well. I see everybody coming through here tonight, and I love it. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff kind of pulled up here, ready to go. We're actually going to watch the verdict. And then I've got some other stuff pulled up here as well about Lowell Correctional Institute. Just a brief little history real quick. The history of Lowell Correctional Institution as a women's prison in Florida started in April of 1956. This institution opened as the first prison for women in Florida. It was originally called the Florida Correctional Institution. In 1999, they changed the name to Lowell Correctional Institution / Women's Unit, but then the following year they changed it back to the Lowell Correctional Institution. You got another little factoid here. Inmate population. The institution houses female inmates ranging in age from 14 to 18 to adults. So there's really young folks in here. I imagine they're keeping them separated. And they have death row inmates here as well. And we know that they stay isolated. The maximum population is 1,456 people. Now, here's where it gets a little bit dark, and we're going to dive into this here tonight. Lowell Correctional Institution has been associated with issues such as inmate abuse, sexual abuse, inhumane conditions, and little to no intervention from the state of Florida. I think there's a lawsuit I have up here that we're going to be looking at, or at least an investigation. Let's put it like that. And then during the pandemic, in September of 2021, the Florida Department of Corrections investigated Lowell Correctional Institution for unsafe conditions related to the pandemic. Nearly half of the inmates had tested positive for COVID. How crazy is that? So yeah, we're going to be diving into that here tonight. And yeah, one thing I wanted to show real quick. This is the first location where she will most likely end up. Florida Women's Reception Center. The Florida Women's Reception Center is a unique facility in that it has multiple missions: reception, inpatient mental health, short sentence institution, and general population. From my understanding, they'll basically be figuring out what to do and where to put Sarah Boone. And I've read even people will stay. I don't know how long she would stay here, but I have read that people can be kind of in this limbo for 4 to 6 weeks before they even reach the prison. I don't know. I'd like to talk to somebody that has a little bit more information on that. But even in here, we could have Sarah Boone doing some yoga, a little bit of wellness education. We know that she is a great mother. Okay, she's going to do absolutely fantastic, and they're going to be able to figure out. But she excels at everything. We do know that. But yeah, this spot right here, I was just doing a little bit of Googling for the area in general. I'm going to pull it up on the old map here and get a look-ski as well. As you can see, it's a compound where Sarah Boone would be housed. But there is a lot of fucked up stories circulating around this particular facility, which is crazy. Which, I mean, prisons aren't good, but some of the stuff that we're reading here is fucked up. So prepare for that. Real quick, I do want to jump in here and I didn't get to do this live. I went into a Halloween stream on Friday night. And happy Halloween, everybody. We do have a Halloween stream coming Thursday night. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what we're going to be doing. But yeah, stay tuned for everything. And again, tomorrow night, normal murder church special here tonight. Appreciate everybody for coming in here. Y'all know what the hell's going on.
This is gun country.
First and foremost, let's listen to the verdict itself that was read on Friday, approaching about 9 p.m. that evening. And I sadly did not get to hear it and watch it live.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome in, everybody.
Madam Clerk, if you could please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the Ninth Judicial Circuit in Orange County, Florida, case number 2020 CF 2603, the state of Florida versus Sarah Boone.
Oh, God, I gotta get that.
We, the jury,
There
find
we
the
go.
defendant guilty of murder in the second degree
No.
as charged in the information. So say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 25th day of October 2024. The form has been signed by the foreperson.
Madam Clerk, please poll our jury.
Juror in seat number 1, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror in seat number 2, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror in seat number 3, is this your true and correct verdict?
Number 3 is like, yes, it is. Yeah, that's damn right it is. Get her out of here. I want to see her get locked up.
Is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 5, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror in
Number 3
seat
wasn't
number
holding
6,
back.
is this
He
your
didn't even let her
true and correct
finish.
verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Members of our jury, again, I want to thank you for your time, your sacrifice, and your attention in this matter. I know that we spent almost 2 weeks together, and it was not taken lightly, and I really appreciate the time and the effort and the sacrifice that you put into this case. I want to advise you now of your final instruction. Members, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and your consideration in this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak
She's right
to
now
anyone,
just thinking any minute they're just going to stand up and be like, psych, you're on candid camera. The last 4 years have been absolutely a joke on you, Sarah Boone. And now you're the host of the show and you're the star. That's what she was waiting on, and that was not going to happen. I wanted to just watch that just for a second. And we're going to be getting into here. So when I was kind of doing some research on this place today, Lowell Correctional Institute, located in Florida. She's not going anywhere. Ocala, Florida, has a troubling history of abuse, neglect, and misconduct spanning several decades. It is the largest women's prison in the United States, and allegations of mistreatment, sexual abuse by guards, medical neglect, and overall poor conditions have frequently surfaced in reports and investigations. Some of the key issues include, and prepare for this, sexual abuse and harassment. Numerous reports have highlighted sexual abuse of inmates by correctional officers and staff. Investigations by the U.S. Department of Justice found that guards would sexually assault inmates, coerce them into sexual acts in exchange for privileges or protection, and then retaliate against those who spoke out. The DOJ's 2020 report even concluded that LCI violated inmates' constitutional rights by failing to protect them from sexual abuse. Seems like sexual abuse is running rampant in this prison. Retaliation against inmates. Inmates who reported abuse were often subjected to retaliation, including threats, physical violence, or being placed in solitary confinement. Whistleblower accounts from former employees and inmate testimonies suggest a pervasive culture of intimidation, making it dangerous for victims to come forward. Medical neglect. Reports of inadequate medical care are widespread. Inmates have spoken out about being denied access to necessary treatments, medications, and proper mental health care. These are instances where women have died from treatable conditions due to lack of attention or delays in care. I've read a few stories of that. Poor living conditions. Inmates at this facility have described living in conditions with cells often infested with mold, bugs, and rodents. Basic needs such as access to hygiene products, proper clothing, and sanitary living spaces have been insufficient, exacerbating the harshness of life inside the prison. So one story that I read earlier is basically like if you're in a situation with like the security guards and you're being sexually abused, I guess they're coercing these women to go along with it for better treatment. They'll get access to better hygiene, be able to take care of themselves better. Or if you do not go along, or if you're one of the people that would tell on them and narc them out, they will treat you terribly or won't let you do these things. So it's a really, really weird situation going on. There's numerous instances that we are going to go over here. Investigations and reforms. Over the years, various groups have tried to bring attention to the abuse at Lowell. The DOJ's 2020 investigation with a major turning point leading to increased scrutiny and calls for reform. Despite these investigations, change has been slow. Human rights groups and former inmates continue to call for accountability and reform to protect women incarcerated here. And I did find one thing. I found a few things digging today. I found that there is a website that is actually showing a number of females that have died at this location since 2015. It doesn't go back further than that. Kind of got interested to look at one of these today, and this very last one that's located on here that died 10/23/23, so a year ago. And all of these say natural. There's only 2 in here that have investigations that are open. They all say closed otherwise. I did find her story, which is really crazy. This person, I think I've actually got it up over here. I believe. Just a sidetrack just for a second. This, what was her name? Bianca Evans. So Bianca Evans, here we go. This is from 2017. Here we go. This is when they got in trouble in 2017. So didn't last long in this facility, and they're a young person. Just weeks after she was arrested for allegedly stealing an older woman's car from a residence, Bianca Evans returned to the same woman's home Thursday, this time armed with a broomstick. So this individual stole a car from this old lady, gets arrested, gets out on bond, and then she goes right back to the residence and waits on the lady to get home from buying groceries, beats the shit out of her with a broomstick, and steals her car again. And then, of course, gets busted, and this time she's in hot shit, and ended up in this facility where Sarah Boone is going, and again did not make it for very long. She died 1 year ago, and she, again, is pretty young, considering by just kind of looking at her here. I mean, I can't imagine anybody from 2017 to 2023, but again, you're in a location that is known for being corrupt as fuck and horrible. Like, all right, we're going to get into some stuff here. All right, I'm leading you up. I'm kind of building this up right now. So I think we're going here. Boom, boom, boom. So first we're going to go here. Warden ignored staff rapes of female inmates, prisoner allegations. Florida promptly promoted him. Okay. A Lowell Correctional Institution. This is from 2022. Where the systematic rape of female inmates by male guards has been documented over the years by the Miami Herald and drawn a sharp rebuke by the Justice Department. A newly filed lawsuit says the sexual abuse is pervasive as ever. And wait till we get to this lawsuit, guys. I've got a certain part of it we're going to read here. The inmate lawsuit dated September 1st, inciting a litany of specific incidents targets Stephen Rostier, Lowell's warden, as a defendant. It does not claim he engaged in sexual misconduct, but that he exhibited deliberate indifference to a widespread pattern of sexual and physical abuse. This week, 12 days after the lawsuit was filed, the Florida Department of Corrections gave the warden a new, higher echelon job. He got promoted. Michelle Glady, the prison system's director of communications, underlined the word promotion in an email to the Herald confirming Rostier's newly announced role as assistant regional director of programs. Glady said at the moment he still functions at the prison near Ocala. Excuse me. The department did not immediately provide a comment from Rostier, whose warden salary is slightly more than $100,000. In addition to citing Rostier, the lawsuit names the Department of Corrections as the defendant, filed by a former Lowell inmate since transferred to another prison in Homestead. It seeks in excess of $75,000 in damages, saying she was sexually abused by a Lowell corrections officer. Only the officer's last name is cited in the filing. The inmate, serving a sentence in Palm Beach County for charges related to drugs and car theft, alleges she was attacked in an area of the prison with no surveillance camera coverage and was threatened with death if she complained. The plaintiff's sentence ends in 2023. So she is moved, but... So I've got this here, and this is on page 10 is where we're going to be reading from. But I just want to show you, this is the investigation of the Lowell Correctional Institution, Florida Department of Corrections. Let me get back down here to number 10, because there's a bunch of stories in here, and it's crazy. Lowell prisoners have suffered serious harm from staff sexual abuse and the substantial risk of serious harm. Sexual abuse of women's... Get that a little bigger. Sexual abuse of women prisoners by Lowell corrections officers and staff is severe and prevalent throughout the prison. In the course of our investigation, the department and its expert reviewed 100% of investigation files produced by the FDOC of reports of sexual abuse and sexual harassment of Lowell prisoners over several years, including 161 investigations of staff on prisoner allegations from 2015 through 2019. And as you notice, the list that I pulled up of women prisoners that have died only goes back to 2015. What was going on before then? Of the 161 sexual misconduct investigations and complaints, our expert reviewed 8 were closed by arrest of the officer. In several cases, officers resigned in lieu of separation for cause or resigned while under investigation for sexual misconduct. More than 24 more officers were dismissed due to agency policy or for committing felony or misdemeanor perjury, or for making false statements. Dozens more contained detailed, credible allegations of sexual abuse. In total, we identified a sufficient number of incidents of sexual abuse to provide compelling evidence in support of its conclusion that there is reasonable cause to believe there is a pattern and practice of sexual abuse at Lowell. This pattern and practice conclusion is bolstered by evidence of pervasive sexual harassment. Incidents of staff sexual abuse of prisoners at Lowell are varied and disturbing. Some staff abused prisoners through unwanted and coerced sexual contact, including sexual penetration and groping. Prisoners were forced or coerced to perform fellatio on or touch the intimate body parts of staff. In other instances, staff demanded that prisoners undress in front of them, sometimes in exchange for basic necessities such as toilet paper. Many prisoners reported that staff watched them while they shower or use the toilet with no penological justification. Lowell has a long history of tolerance for sexual abuse and harassment, which continues to present to the present. In interviews with the department, prisoners spoke of sex between staff and prisoners as a regular event, suggesting a normalization of sexual abuse by staff. Some current and former staff made similar representations. The incident of sexual abuse follow similar patterns where officers and staff sexually abuse women who are vulnerable to sexual victimization and fear retaliation, violence, deprivation of privileges, what we were just talking about, or endure sexual abuse in exchange for food, medication, or contraband in violation of the prisoner's constitutional rights. Prisoners who report sexual abuse often are placed in confinement pending investigation, and it is common for staff to threaten prisoners who report abuse with retaliation, including placement in confinement. It is particularly disturbing that supervisors are among the repeat perpetrators of sexual abuse at Lowell. Not only does this misconduct set a poor example for line staff, but it also results in fewer checks and balances to detect and prevent abuse throughout the staff. In some cases, abuse allegations were channeled through alleged abusers who were tasked with writing up incident reports on behalf of alleged victims, and we're going to go through some of those. Several Lowell officers and other staff have faced criminal charges based on allegations of sexual abuse of prisoners. For example, in July 2020, a corrections officer was arrested after he admitted to engaging in oral sex with a prisoner in a dormitory maintenance room at Lowell. The prisoner alleged she and the officer had also had sexual intercourse. The officer was charged with 1 count of sexual misconduct. The officer was credibly accused of sexual abuse previously, but had remained employed at Lowell and in close contact with prisoners. This is a repeated thing that seems to be happening all the time in prisons and law enforcement in general across the country. But in this type of position, are you that hard up for getting new employees? Like, I think these are usually lower paying jobs. But Jesus fucking Christ. Sarah Boone is headed to here, I believe, folks. In February 2017, this officer allegedly handcuffed a prisoner, groped her vagina and breast, placed her in confinement, and withheld hygiene products from her after she refused to go to the usual place to perform oral sex on the officer, as she had on multiple previous occasions over the previous 2.5 months. The prisoner also alleged that he had provided her with contraband, including nail polish, lip gloss, and small pinches of snuff in exchange for oral sex. A medical exam noted that the prisoner had 2 lesions on her throat, which she said resulted from performing oral sex on the officer. OIG opened an investigation into these allegations, but did not interview the officer. What? And never completed the investigation. The officer remained employed at Lowell until he was arrested based on the new allegations 3 years later. In September of 2019, a trainee corrections officer was sentenced to 2 years in prison after he pleaded guilty to sexual misconduct with a prisoner, a felony under Florida law. The prisoner alleged that on two separate occasions in September 2018, the officer who was assigned to her housing unit woke up in the middle of the night along with prisoners who were being escorted to the pill line outside the dormitory. The officer then walked her to a bathroom where she had sexual intercourse with him in exchange for Suboxone, a prescription drug used to treat opioid withdrawal. The officer was dismissed for cause in September of 2018. Seems like this is just a daily epidemic that is... I mean, I don't know how it would be unmanageable. You have to do some kind of investigation and, actually look into what the fuck's going on. I mean, what are we doing here? I don't know how often I read stories like this, and it leaves me scratching my head with what's actually going on behind the scenes and how so much could just go unchecked for so long. In February 2020, a former Lowell officer trainee turned himself into the Marion County Sheriff's Office on charges of 2 counts of sexual misconduct with a prisoner. Forensic evidence from the prisoner identified the officer's DNA on the prisoner's shirt, which she reported was caused when he ejaculated during one of their sexual encounters. The prisoner reported that the officer demanded that she perform oral sex on him on 2 occasions in August of 2018, and she complied because she was panicked and scared. According to an anonymous grievance, this prisoner also was helping the officer distribute contraband around the prison, and another prisoner allegedly also helped him distribute contraband around the same time. She feared she was pregnant by the officer. That shit's got to happen too. Are you kidding me? In September 2018, the officer was dismissed after contraband was found in his vehicle, and he admitted to attempting to introduce contraband into the prison. OIG's investigation into allegations that this officer repeatedly coerced a prisoner to perform oral sex on him remained open for almost a year and a half following his dismissal. It was eventually closed in February of 2020 due to the officer's arrest. Is this insane? I mean, a Lowell lieutenant was accused repeatedly of sexually abusing multiple prisoners at Lowell over several years, but remained in his position until 2019. When he was arrested for sexually molesting 2 minor girls in the community, FDOC did not respond adequately to previous allegations against this lieutenant. And remember, we said this place houses people as young as 14 years old. Excuse me. Results in his remaining in close contact with and able to harm prisoners for several years. In 2019, another prisoner alleged that between March and April 2018, he had sexual intercourse with this lieutenant twice in a Lowell Annex dormitory in exchange for favors from him. This prisoner was transferred to another institute for her own safety. In 2018, another prisoner filed a third-party grievance accusing this lieutenant of receiving oral sex from another prisoner, and after a report was made calling the prisoner who made the report I don't know what Brea means, B-R-E-A, bitch, and told him to suck a dick. In 2017, the same lieutenant was accused of sexually attacking another prisoner who alleged he groped her buttocks and made comments that her butt is soft. The prisoner was transferred, but the lieutenant remained on duty, supervising prisoners at Lowell. At least 2 of these cases remained open as of November 2019, with no investigative findings on record. Over and over. In addition to being a repeat sexual predator, this lieutenant also was credibly accused of unjustified use of force against a Lowell prisoner. In August of 2019, he was accused of brutally beating and handcuffed a prisoner and leaving her a quadriplegic. In August of 2020, FDOC suffered the lawsuit related to the prisoner's paralysis for $4.65 million. This actually sounds like one of those 80s women in prison movies, like those horrible movies that are just sexual abuse and beatings, and they make them fight each other and just the wildest shit. As part of that case, a former prisoner who recently had been released from Lowell testified under oath that this lieutenant threatened to put you under investigation and take your gain time if you did not take care of him, which the prisoner understood to mean oral or regular sex. The prisoner testified that some of the girls were so desperate to not lose their gain time, they would have sexual intercourse with the lieutenant. In February 2017, a Lowell Corrections sergeant was arrested and charged with sexual misconduct involving a prisoner and terminated from employment. After another officer witnessed the sergeant kissing a prisoner in July of 2016, the prisoner told investigators that she had sexual intercourse with the sergeant on multiple occasions, and forensic testing ultimately revealed the sergeant's DNA on the prisoner's pants. Another officer investigated the scene and found a letter between the prisoner and staff confirming an inappropriate relationship. Despite the strong forensic and circumstantial evidence of sexual abuse, the charge was dropped because the victim's refusal to cooperate precluded the state from proving sexual penetration, as the charging statute requires. However, the sergeant's termination stood for violating the FDOC moral character standards. Come on. Oh, we got more. A food service coordinator at Lowell Correctional Institute was arrested on September 18, 2019 on suspicion of sexual battery on a prisoner. A charge with 1 count of battery, although the charge was subsequently dropped. This alleged battery was corroborated by surveillance video, which showed the staff member waited until no one was in the immediate area, then rubs/grabs the prisoner's buttocks while she is still cleaning. The complaining witness was cleaning the kitchen area of the prison in the middle of the day when the food service coordinator grabbed the prisoner's buttocks, which investigators subsequently confirmed in reviewing video evidence. At the time of the staff member's arrest, it was reported that DOC officials were in the process of terminating him. In early 2018, a prisoner alleged that another prisoner had engaged in oral sex with the staff member, but OIG closed that case as unfounded without interviewing the staff member. Many more officers at Lowell's have been investigated for credible accusations of sexual abuse, including forcible rape, sexual acts of exchange for contraband, and other forms of coerced sexual activity. And we're not done. There's more. It literally does not freaking stop. Madness. In March 2018, a Lowell sergeant allegedly anally raped a female prisoner in a storage area at Lowell. She alleged that the sergeant forcibly turned her around, pulled her pants down, and forced his penis in anally. Then he wiped himself off on her thermals. Extensive evidence, including photographs showing anal trauma, documents the victim's injuries. A forensic examination of the victim after the assault found that she was suffering back pain and rectal pain and had loose stool and loss of bowel control. An OIG inspector who worked on the case told the department that Lowell staff mishandled the alleged victim's clothing in the immediate aftermath of her report, so no DNA evidence was collected for subsequent forensic lab testing. What the fuck? Shortly after the alleged rape, the sergeant went on leave. He subsequently resigned from his position with FDOC as of September of 2020, 2.5 years after the alleged incident. OIG's investigation remained open. These are horrific. One correction sergeant resigned in 2019 after having been accused of sexual misconduct, violence, and threats against prisoners since 2013, including in at least 10 documented complaints in March of 2017. Lowell's warden at the time wrote in an email that the sergeant would be moved from the female prisoner population because he has had multiple allegations of misconduct, with several being sexual in nature. There have been 10 assigned as IG investigations, with 6 remaining under open investigation and 4 not sustained thus far. While I hesitate to condemn staff solely based on allegations made about inmates and no substantiated cases, the number and trend is certainly concerning. Are you kidding? Really? The complaints against the sergeant included an allegation that he threatened a prisoner with bodily harm and slammed her head into a wall, that he sexually abused prisoners, including touching a prisoner's buttocks, that he had repeatedly propositioned prisoners for sex and sexually harassed prisoners, that he was having sex with a prisoner who was selling cigarettes for him, and that he exchanged cigarettes, pills, and other contraband for sex with prisoners. It's like a little playground for the dudes that run in here and get these fucking jobs. Move up the ladders even, it seems. You get promotions. Several of the specific allegations against the sergeant were disturbing. In early of 2017, a prisoner in the Lowell Annex made repeated allegations that the same sergeant had repeatedly propositioned her for sex, alleging that he asked her on numerous occasions, "When am I going to let him fuck me?" She alleged that she was in fear of the sergeant and a female officer with whom he was also allegedly involved, and she described specific incidents and alleged that he offered her cigarettes in exchange for exposing her naked body. In another 2017 case, a prisoner's aunt contacted Lowell and reported that her niece regularly was having sex with the sergeant and selling cigarettes for other prisoners for him. In March of 2017, due to this pattern of sexual misconduct allegations, including 6 cases that remained open at the time, the warden requested that the sergeant be placed on a no-contact status or transferred to another facility. He was listed on the no inmate contact list in March of 2017 until he resigned 3 years later and briefly was reassigned to a nearby men's facility. However, he remained employed as a sergeant at FDOC, moving between the annex, the main unit, and other facilities until he resigned in March of 2019. Years passed with this bullshit, with this paperwork. All OIG cases against these officers have been closed or suspended with no sustained violations. This is actually insane. Right? April of 2018, a Lowell Corrections officer allegedly raped a prisoner in the outdoor space between 2 buildings. According to the prisoner's written allegation, while she was working in a dormitory in April of 2018, the officer took her to a side of the building between the dorm and the canteen, pushed her down, told her he knew what kind of girl she was, and forced his penis into her mouth. I did what he told me and gave me oral, and he zipped his pants up and took me back to the dormitory. The prisoner repeatedly maintained the details of her allegation. In December of 2018, she reported that she had been harassed by several officers for reporting the abuse. Between 2015 and 2019, one corrections sergeant was the subject of at least 6 investigations into allegations of sexual abuse, sexual harassment, and inappropriate interactions with prisoners, one of which was partially sustained in the OIG investigation. The sergeant repeatedly was placed on the no inmate contact list due to these allegations and was transferred between Lowell assignments in the FDOC men's facility, but returned to the positions directly supervising prisoners at Lowell. During on-site interviews with the department, multiple prisoners accused this sergeant of threatening them with confinement or discipline if they spoke frankly with the department. Administrators placed the sergeant on a no-contact inmate contact status and planned to transfer him. And Lowell's warden informed the sergeant in April of 2019 that permanently resigning him to another facility was the best interest of Lowell Correctional Institution. That same month, the sergeant voluntarily resigned from the FDOC. I think it's the same one we were talking about earlier. Sounds like it. Prior to his voluntary resignation, this sergeant, an admitted sexual harasser who was repeatedly accused of accused of sexual abuse over several years, continued working within FDOC, but failing to implement meaningful corrective actions. FDOC and Lowell officials allowed this sergeant to directly supervise prisoners on and off over several years. The department also reviewed Lowell staff discipline records with which demonstrate a persistent pattern of sexual misconduct. For example, Lowell staff discipline logs for April and May of 2017 indicate that at least 18 officers and other staff faced discipline for the PREA-related violations over those 2 months as follows: 1 for arrest, sexual relationship with intimate; 10, inappropriate relationship; 1 for conduct unbecoming, sexually assaulting another person; 1 for conduct unbecoming, seen inappropriately touching herself in food service area; 2 for conducting conduct unbecoming; 1 for intimate abuse, vulgar language against inmates; 1 for failure to follow reporting procedures after inmate reported being raped; 1 for failure to report violation for failure to report an inappropriate relationship between another officer and a prisoner. Lowell's no inmate contact list also demonstrate a pattern of sexual predation among staff between November 17 and March of 19. At least a dozen officers and other staff were removed from prisoner contact positions based on credibly alleged or confirmed misconduct, apparently of sexual nature, as follows: 1 for allegations of a prisoner assault; 4 for allegations of misconduct, inappropriate conduct, or inappropriate contact with prisoners; 5 for inappropriate relationships or allegations of inappropriate relationships; 1 for multiple cases, both closed and open; 1 for intimate abuse. Some of these individuals were arrested, terminated, or resigned while under investigation. Like, it's fucking crazy, dude. Like, and then I had this one up here. This is actually from 2015. This is from the Miami Herald also. Bartered sex, corruption, and cover-ups behind bars in nation's largest women's prison. So, like, what the actual fuck? Like, this stuff just goes on and on and on, and, like, no one's doing anything. Like, there's no... The investigations that start up take years to even complete, and then when they complete, they're not even finished. They'll move people around. Somebody might get a promotion even. It's fucking insane. So Sarah Boone has that to look forward to anyways. In here, I'm going to look at the chat here for just a second. It does. It sounds like some fucking... Like, has anybody watched the 80s women prison movies? You know, they're probably... The 70s, I believe, had them as well. Maybe even into the early 90s. They don't really make these anymore. And they're pretty much sleazy movies. But that sounds like literally what's actually happening. Like, the women in it are taken advantage of by the staff there, by the wardens, by other prisoners. And those prisoners will make deals with staff so they won't get in trouble, and then they have power over other inmates. Like, it is a really, really fucking dark, disturbing life that awaits Sarah Boone. It's crazy. Everybody in here right now, I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. I see a lot of beautiful folks out here. Bonnie Bailey, I just got your package ready to go. I'm going to be taking that out tomorrow. I've got 2 shirts in there. I got a bunch of stickers in there. Sending that to Canada. Let's pray that makes it and gets over the border and into your hands with no issues whatsoever. Everybody in here, I really appreciate it.
I'm telling you,
One thing I didn't do for this special edition of Murder Church is ring the bells, so I'm going to ring them right now. We ring these bells in here when we do Murder Church, baby. Y'all heard. I got some Dr. Peppers. If you're a member here, I got some Dr. Peppers for Sarah Boone. I got a suitcase in there. I got a Mad Dog 2020 in there. I think you're coming up. Holly. I'm going to look at my numbers here. Holly Berry. Thanks for coming through, Queen Olive. I'm going to keep reading here for just a minute. I've got another one. This is a pretty long read. We're going to see how far we get here. But it is pretty nuts, man. I was pretty blown away today when I was getting into this stuff. And, I knew that there's some darkness in prisons for sure, but apparently this is one of the worst in the country. The one, potentially, that Sarah Boone's going to end up going to. So let's jump in here. Casey Hodge stepped from the prison van, trembling under the weight of her thick handcuffs and leg shackles. The slight 25-year-old was led with a group of other women into a small room and ordered to strip naked. "Show me your pink," said a female corrections officer, instructing her to squat and cough so that they could peer between her legs and certify that she wasn't concealing anything. Hodge, who has been legally blind since she was 16, then was told to remove her glass eye. "They wanted to make sure I wasn't hiding anything in my socket," she remembers. So she pulled it out with her fingers. The officers nearly fell off their chairs, she said, mocking her like children and pretending to vomit. I felt like I was a kid being bullied all over again, said Hodge, who had never been in trouble with the law before her arrest on drug trafficking charges in 2012. That's what would suck, being put in a spot like this on for a first-time offender type of situation, even if it is a serious case. And, you know, you can debate about drugs however you want. This can definitely be serious. Hodge once dreamed of growing up to be a photographer. Now she was inmate number 155778, sentenced to 3 years to be served in Lowell Correctional Institution, a state prison that houses the 5 women of Florida's death row and has the distinction of being the largest women's prison in the United States. With 2,696 inmates in a sprawling maze of drab gray, un-air-conditioned buildings, the institution, I was reading earlier today too, like it's supposed to, in the summer especially, it gets so hot, and they have these girls and ladies out there doing, and I'm sure men too, doing, you know, yard work and farm type work and labor outside in these blistering temperatures. And apparently a lot of people will have fights leading up to this, especially as the weather starts to get hotter and hotter, trying to get put into some kind of confinement or whole situation so they don't have to work. But the women who have done time here say Lowell's quite veneer belies the corruption, torment, and sexual abuse within. They say that over the past decade, the abuse has become intolerable. Documents show inmates have complained that officers from the Florida Department, and this is 2015, the one I just wrote is from 2022. Documents show inmates have complained that officers from the Florida Department of Corrections spit in their faces, threatened to slam them into concrete, and call them whores, bitches, and I'm not even going to say that one. They say male prison staffers tramp through the showers, make them flash their breast on a whim, and force them to beg from basic necessities like toilet paper, soap, and sanitary napkins. But perhaps the worst indignity of all, women say, is that the officers, both male and female, use their positions of power to pressure inmates to have sex to perform indecent acts. Women alleged in complaints filed between all the way back to 2011 and into May of 2015. Again, man, imagine the fucking 70s and 80s, and even when it was open in the 50s. Imagine these past decades, guys. Because it's bad now, and now there's some people that kind of care, almost. It wasn't even this good a long time ago. It's horrible now that the sex happens in bathrooms, closets, the laundry, and officer stations. Sometimes officers go into dorms in the middle of the night, taking women into isolated areas of the prison. Many women comply because they feel they have no choice. Others call it a matter of survival. At Lowell, inmates say those who yield to an officer's demands are often shielded from abuse. They can be rewarded with soap and sanitary pads, cigarettes, drugs, and money. They get free world food like cheeseburgers or meager feminine products. They make them feel more human, such as makeup and perfume. The inmates who don't comply with officers' demands, however, say they are harassed and humiliated. They forfeit plum job and bunk assignments. Often they are threatened with confinement, a separation from the general population that isolates them and tests their sanity. They can also lose their belongings and the privilege of visits from their families. In a statement, Julie Jones, Secretary of Department of Corrections, acknowledged that prior to her taking over the department in January, Lowell was poorly managed. Oh, so what happened this is 2015, remember that, and lacked proper leadership. She replaced the warden, who was the warden we just heard about, right? Fired an assistant warden and hired more than 100 new officers. In recent months, she had made policy changes and says the officers are now being held accountable. The new warden, Angela Gordon, and other FDC officials contend that the alleged abuse, physical, mental, and sexual, is not as widespread as inmates suggest. Prisoners, they say, tend to lie and manipulate to get officers in trouble or to get something they want. Yes, some of them lie sometimes, but that doesn't mean that they lie all the time. Ridgway said there is clearly sexual activity happening at Lowell akin to prostitution, but gauging how rampant it can be difficult because such much of the sex is consensual, but that it doesn't mean a crime has been committed, he said. It is a third-degree felony for an officer to have sex with an inmate. Ridgway said he doesn't have enough staff to investigate Lowell because the problems in the prison itself are too vast. Some of these issues and complaints are well-founded, and there are things that are happening that clearly are illegal and should not have happened. Aaron Johnson, a Vero Beach attorney who has represented Lowell inmates, said that consent or lack thereof is difficult to define when guards control every aspect of a woman's life. What I saw was that some of the girls were truly victims of rape and sexual assault and battery. I believed them when they told me it was unsolicited, uninvited, and a nightmare. Nancy Abdul, legal director at the ACLU of Florida, said the organization has interviewed several women from Lowell over the past few months who allege that they have been coerced to have sex through threats and intimidation. We keep hearing that. We are looking into whether these allegations are not only a violation of civil rights, but an international violation of human rights. The so-called punishment for an officer who rapes an inmate is to get transferred to another facility. That's what happens. Florida's prisons allow officers to rape women in prison because the inmates aren't considered to have any rights. For Hodge, having to squat naked and pluck out her eye was nothing compared to what would follow. In a formal statement she gave to the Florida Department of Corrections Inspector General, she alleged that in 2013 she was tormented by a sergeant who stalked her on the compound, sent her long sexually explicit letters, and pressured her into having sex by threatening to put her in confinement and extend her prison stay through loss of gain time off for good behavior. Imagine that. She's there for 3 years on a drug charge, and this is her new nightmarish life. We are nothing but animals to them, said Hodge, who filed the complaint against the sergeant. William Ulrich in September 2013. It was dismissed and unfounded over a year later. In December 2014, 7 months later, Ulrich was transferred to Marion Correctional Institution, a men's prison, so they just moved him. They think they are God. I did drugs, absolutely made wrong choices in my life, but what they are doing in that prison goes beyond punishment. Complaints and confinement. They come up and handcuff you. Then they say something like, I found this razor blade in your stuff. And you say, that's not mine. And they say, well, it is now. And they say, you spit on me. And I say, what are you talking about? And they say, do you know that is assault? You're going to do a 1.5 years in confinement unless you do what I want you to do. Former inmate said. The Miami Herald reviewed hundreds of pages of Lowell records, and over the course of the past year interviewed more than 30 Lowell inmates, current prisoners, as well as former ones across the state. It examined 4 years worth of inmate complaints, a decade of misconduct allegations filed against wardens, assistant wardens, chaplains, instructors, and medical staff. It poured over officer personnel files, inmate histories, and criminal records, as well as prisoner health and safety reports. It also analyzed a trove of letters and emails from women and their families, many alleging sexual, physical, and mental abuse at the prison. And this is something I had put on X earlier, kind of showing this. Female prison populations compared to men. They make up a fraction of the system and are demographically different. Women make up a modest slice of Florida's prison population. The radical makeup of Florida's female prisoners differs markedly from their male counterparts. Just under half of all men in Florida prisoners are black, while nearly 2/3 of female prisoners are white or non-Hispanics. You kind of see the stats here. The records and interviews suggest that the agency has for years ignored, covered up, or dismissed allegations of corruption involving every corner of Lowell, from the chapel and food service to the former assistant warden's office. Like the highest to the lowest people that are in power are abusing it here. The women described a system of flagrant sexual extortion intertwined with habitual and illegal smuggling of drugs, tobacco, and other contraband, excessive force against inmates for minor infractions such as talking in the chow hall, and long history of officers forcing women to perform degrading acts. Complaints allege that officers ordered a blind woman to read a Bible in front of fellow prisoners while laughing at her, encouraged women to participate in breast measuring and tattoo examining contests, and just this year scribbled 2 inmates' faces with yellow highlighter because they were talking in a hallway in Visitation Park, which is where inmates meet their families. Records show in recent years, officers forced one inmate to quack like a duck and another to do bear crawls from the chow room to her dorm. One sergeant, while ordering the women to form a line, announced, Okay, I'm not saying that one either. The year-long investigation found that nearly every time an inmate filed a complaint, she was forced into some form of confinement for her own protection. Women in confinement are restricted to a 10-by-12 cell with the clothes on their back and are lucky to have a few possessions. They get fewer showers and are likely to miss any classes they have signed up for. And down here just a little bit more, I'm going to skip a little bit. Female prison population compared to male. They are likely to have been abused and addicted, require drug treatment. Female inmates, 72%. Male inmates, 61%. Require mental health treatment. Female inmates, 42%. Now, Sarah Boone's going to definitely be in that category. They serve shorter sentences. Females 4.2 years, where men are 10, and more have minor children. Gordon, a 20-year veteran of the department who previously worked in male prisons, said Lowell is a challenge because women prisoners have different needs than men. A greater portion of Lowell's inmates require extensive medical and psychological care. The women often have histories of physical and sexual abuse, and you're in the fucking worst place ever now, as well as problems with addiction. The warden said Lowell has initiated new programs to help them feel closer to their children and families. Our goal is to make them better citizens when they get out. Do you want someone we've given an opportunity to improve themselves? Okay. But women interviewed for this story, including some released this year, say violent abuse and sheer degradation persist. I believe them. Those who have been seeing the popular Netflix show Orange is the New Black say their treatment makes Lynchfield Penitentiary, the fictional women's federal prison, look like a women's country club. Holy shit. I know that I'm here for a reason, said Theresa Livingood, 67, who gets around in a wheelchair while serving life at Lowell for killing her father. But the officers threaten you. They say, I can bring in the boys and tear up your stuff, which means they take everything they can. They say, do you want to eat concrete? There is no accountability. They don't answer to anybody, and it gets worse every day. Said another inmate, I'm serving 25 years in prison. There is nothing more that anyone can do to me except treat me like an animal. And they do that, like they do. They put me in a confinement. They take away my right to see my child. They mess with my mail, make us plead for hygiene items. We aren't women in here. We're pieces of crap. They scrap off their boots. Despite the fear of being replaced in confinement, some inmates do file complaints. FDC records show that in 2013, 14, and first 9 months of 15, Lowell lodged 137 allegations of staff sexual misconduct and 14 allegations of staff sexual harassment. Dude. Female prison population compared to male, they are less violent, serving time for violent crimes. Female inmates, 38%. They are better educated, it says. Most women in Florida prisons are serving time for nonviolent crime, and more than half of them are mothers of minor children. They generally serve shorter sentences than men, meaning they require education, vocational training, rehabilitation, and other programs. Florida historically has failed to provide adequate reentry programs for low inmates, evidenced by 2 reviews, one in 2006 and another just this year. That would be 2015. So I wonder where they're going to put Sarah Boone in here and what she'll be doing. One prison stood out. Lowell, the survey team for the MGT of America, national consultant firm that evaluates prison systems, devoted an entire chapter to the facility. The study said that programming to keep inmates engaged and train them for life after prison was so lacking that it created an almost perfect storm for problems, including unprofessional and demeaning interaction between staff and inmates. It also said that the prison's medical care was totally inadequate and that the institution had far too many Psych 3 inmates, and those are on psychotropic drugs. The FDC was advised at that time to take immediate steps to reduce familiarity with guards and inmates. The report said the institution not only failed to discourage sexual relationships between officers and inmates, but institutional staff members went out of their way to thwart investigations. It's a culture of corruption, and even the good staff look the other way because they probably want to keep their jobs, which is crazy. You can't work there if that's your mentality. Like, you just can't work there. 9 years later, Lowell, which consists of 3 facilities, the main unit, the annex, and the work camp, spends 46% less per inmate on healthcare and 36% less on education. Like, they're not even trying. They're not even acting like they care. Like, spending less on Lowell. An independent survey of the prison system in 2006 focused in on Lowell facilitating healthcare as well as programs aimed at keeping inmates occupied and readying them for reentry to society. Since then, however, the facility is spending less per inmate. So there's like a change there from 2006 to until 15. Again, almost 10 years ago at this point. Crazy, dude. The FDC said that since the 1st of July, 52 inmates at Lowell have received their high school equivalencies, and 80 have received vocation certificates. But it just completed audit showed that only 14% of Florida's 100,000 inmates get any education or vocational instruction. Yeah, those are insanely low numbers for the numbers that are actually in there. You are paying your debts in society, but it doesn't end there, said a former inmate, Kate Jones, who spent 16 years in prison for grand theft and credit card fraud. That's crazy. The officers, they're above the law. They dehumanize you and you lose hope. A lot of women come out of prison and sell themselves short. They continue to do drugs and are not rehabilitated. It's crazy. Like, this goes on and on and on. Like, there's so much information and detail about how fucked up this area and places. It's wild. And again, that's where Sarah Boone is heading. At least it seems like it. Whoa, Holly Berry's been rocking and rolling for 16 months. Fuck yeah. Hell yeah, Holly Berry. Holly Berry's been killing it. She's always the best. Thank you, Holly.
Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
Gosh, I saw him come through earlier. I didn't get to yell it out. 20 months. Holy cow.
Happy anniversary.
That's a long ass time.
Son of a bitch!
Damn. And of course, this is for Sarah.
I'm sober enough to know what I'm doing, and I'm drunk enough to really enjoy doing it.
Yes. Yeah, December 2nd, Sarah Boone is going to be sentenced. I'm guessing by Judge Cranick. And I guess the lowest amount she could get is 22.5 years, but who knows what. After everything she's put the state through, I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, he's been super fair. He's been so fucking nice. They offered her a plea deal, even right at the end, right before trial, 15 years, and she said no. She was like, sorry about that. I'm going to beat all your asses. I've got this. I'll butcher this. Accoutrements? I feel like I nailed that one. Accoutrements. I nailed accoutrements. Warden Steve, baby. Yeah, I would imagine this one is going to be demonetized. I might even take it down and put it on Patreon. Like, this one was pretty vulgar. There was some stuff that I wouldn't even say on here. One thing that I'm going to post in here real quick is the Patreon, because I'm going to be posting Candyman on there for Halloween, and I'm going to be posting some other stuff on there that is going to be exclusive to Patreon folks, so you're not going to want to miss that if you're not on Patreon. We've already got a lot of beautiful folks on there, and we'd love to have you. Anybody that's also being a member on here, thank you all so much. This weekend I'm going to try to get some more stuff going. Looks like somebody, oh shit, Lakota just coming through the old the shop, PubliclyBuzzed.com, picking up what I'm going to be picking up soon also, the Sweater Meowder Church. Check this guy out. Thank you very much. Lakota coming through and picking this guy up right here. I'm going to be getting this as well. It's starting to get a little bit colder here in the old West Virginia, and I think that's a pretty dank ass shirt. Here is the merch store for anybody that may need that as well. Thank you so much, Lakota. I appreciate that. That helps me out greatly. I'll tell you what. Tomorrow we're going to have our regularly scheduled Murder Church episode. We're doing the Phil Spector murder trial from 2007, folks. And yeah, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, come through. Regularly scheduled episode of Murder Church is going to be rocking and rolling. We are, as always, we have a wheel rocking and rolling. I don't think I've seen anybody come through here tonight for that guy, but I don't even know what I'm doing on the next one. I think we've got a couple of people on here, though. Like I said, Bonnie Bailey, I've got your care package going out. I've got you 2 shirts. I've got you some stickers in there. We get that thing over the Canadian border. We'll be rocking and rolling. Yeah, we have a new wheel that has 1 person on there right now, so the wheel's always in motion and moving. So keep an eye on that. I'll probably do some more stickers for the next one. I'll probably do a combo. I'll probably do some murder stickers and Meowder Church stickers for that guy before we go back into another shirt. Maybe try to do one of those for Thursday night. But hell yeah, everybody, thank y'all so much. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Actually, yeah, go check this out. As you head out here tonight, I showed this yesterday on Murder Church, first of all, but get this right here. Showed this on Murder Church, but there was this live streamer that took a homeless lady to a sit-down restaurant, and then they dine, and then he dashes. Once he gets the bill, he's like, oh, I forgot my wallet in the car, and then he fucking leaves. He leaves her sitting there with the bill after inviting her, and it is incredibly fucked up. It's less than 2 minutes. It's really short. If anybody could go check that out, give it a like, give it a comment, get that thing in the algorithm, I really appreciate it. If just everyone in here right now, all 32 of you, went and showed that thing some love, that would probably pick it up. Hopefully, YouTube hates me. I don't know. I don't get a lot of love from the YouTubes on this channel. We'll see though. Go check that out right there. That link I just posted in the chat. He's an absolute piece of fucking shit. Let me know what you think about him in the comment section. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you tomorrow night. Murder Church, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Let's rock and roll. Let's go. If anything else is going to be coming down the pike for Sarah Boone in the meantime, or if I come up with any more stuff that I want to look into, you'll know first right here. Also, I'm going to post this in there. Make sure you're following on the old X machine, because that's where I'm posting lots of interesting tidbits throughout the days, folks. You're not going to want to miss that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, YouTubing with you. I hope you're subbed up. Come back by. We love it. We love it. Let's get out of here. Have a great night and have a great tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow night.